the limit. What other outside help is on the way?
So additional 900 firefighters are being deployed to this area to try to help with those firefighting efforts. I was listening to one firefighter talk on another network, and he just talked about how they are pushed to the brink, but that they are not giving up this fight. Some of them having to sleep nearby those firefighting zones just so that they are not giving up. This is a relentless fight, and those firefighters are vowing to stay and to give as much as they've got. Joe?
Dana, I also want to ask you about an evacuation alert that was sent out yesterday in error. It went out to nearly 10 million people in the LA area. I mean, folks are already incredibly anxious, on standby because of these fires. Yeah. What happened here?
So this happened just before 4 o'clock last night, and our crew is on kind of like the graveyard shift. So we were already in bed, some of us, and that thing started blaring. It was very nerve-wracking because we had that Kenneth fire that popped up, so we did not know if this was a new fire or if this was the Kenneth fire. And then 20 minutes later, a message was sent to say disregard. Officials say that this was not human caused and that they are working with the system operator to try to figure out what went wrong. They say that the evacuation area that was supposed to receive that alert was entered correctly into their system. So we definitely have a lot of questions as to what went wrong. A lot of people, were freaked out about that, but luckily they sent a message saying disregard that message, and I think that put a lot of people at ease. But obviously, it's a really tense situation out here because communities have been wiped off the map. So when you get an alert and you aren't expecting it, it's really concerning.
Understandably so. All right, Dana, thanks so much for your reporting. We appreciate it. For more on the volunteer efforts, let's bring in Major Anthony Barnes. He is General Secretary of the Salvation Army Southern California Division. Major Barnes, thank you for your time this morning after what I know has been a long couple days here. You're one of those organizations that's you're already there embedded in the Southern California community. You're there all year long. Talk about how you're helping people who have been evacuated and also those who've lost everything this week.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. We're just trying to surround those who are in the most need right now. You mentioned being here as part of the community. We're a part of the community before disaster happens, during and after. And in fact, some of our own people have been impacted by this. But it's just our pleasure to serve those who are struggling. We're out there feeding from moment to moment, meal to meal, making sure that people have their most basic needs met: water, food, clothing, just to meet those immediate needs, and then we'll move into the next stage when that time comes.
I mean, when you look at just the unprecedented scale of this destruction, it's overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
Well, we begin with just what I mentioned. What is of most need right now? Aside from making sure they have food and water and clothing, we need to make sure that we help to begin to restore hope. So we have our teams out there, emergency disaster response experts, that are providing skilled relief services, whether that's emotional care, spiritual care, food, clothing, water. And we're waiting even now for when the evacuations are lifted so that we can walk alongside of those folks in their communities, many which have lost homes, and we want to walk right alongside them as they're kind of discovering what's next.
When people arrive at the evacuation centers, what is it you find they need the most right away?
Many of them are just trying to figure out, how do I get in contact with other loved ones? They've lost so much. Many have even lost the way to communicate, their phones and any of the electronics that they had. So we're trying to make a way to provide them even with access to communication. How can we get them in contact with their family members or their loved ones? How do we reconnect families that may have been on different sides of town? And then, of course, those immediate needs that I mentioned before.
This is a crisis, of course. It's going to be unfolding for many months, if not years, after these fires are finally put out. How can the public help the Salvation Army do the kind of work that's needed now and that's going to be needed for those many months to come?
For the many months that are to come, we're going to need lots of different resources. But right now, we are trying to meet those immediate needs. And so monetary donations are needed more than ever, especially in the moment. People can go and visit SalvationArmyUSA.org, or they can call 1-800-SALARMY and make a donation. This gives us the flexibility to meet the myriad of needs that are coming before us. But yes, we are going to have restoration of pre-disaster services coming up soon, where we want to make sure we get people to the state that they were at before this disaster happened. And so we will use some of those donations for that, some for what the immediate needs are, and to make sure that people are whole again.
A reminder, it is a step-by-step process, and there are so many people who don't live in Southern California who are looking for ways to help. This is one way to do that. Major Barnes, thank you for your help this morning and for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
It is a week of fire and ice. While crews fight to put out the raging wildfires in California, much of the South is in the midst of a major winter storm and deep freeze. As you can see, states from the plains and southeast are dealing with a combination of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Governors are declaring states of emergency as the storm creates major travel disruptions. More than 2,000 flights have been canceled in and out of Dallas airports already since the storm started. Southerners have barely recovered from another storm that hit earlier in the week. Well, now comes this new round of winter weather. Some of the heaviest snowfall expected today in Arkansas and Tennessee. With everything that's going on, let's take a closer look at what you can expect with your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Angie Lassman has been busy.